You know, kid, I've seen it all. The twisted grins, the whispered lies, the betrayal that cuts deeper than any blade. You walked into their world, all wide-eyed and open, thinking maybe, just maybe, this time it'd be different. But you were wrong, weren't you? They chewed you up and spat you out, left you wondering if the problem was you. They laughed behind your back, made you the punchline of their jokes, and all the while, you kept giving, kept believing. You played the fool, but you didn't even know it. But here's the thing about fools. They're dangerous. You see, they think you're soft, weak, too naive to see through their masks. They mistake kindness for stupidity, generosity for desperation. Oh, how wrong they were. Because when the dust settled, when the smoke cleared, there you were, still standing. And them? They were left clutching their heads, trying to piece together their shattered minds. It's funny, really. They thought they were playing you, but in the end, you played them. Life is a game, kid, but it's not a fair one. It's rigged, stacked against you from the start. The house always wins, and the people around you, they're just waiting for you to fold. They love to watch you lose because it makes their misery seem smaller. You ever notice that? How they lean in when you're down, how their eyes glimmer when they see your pain. It's because your failures feed their egos. They need your downfall to justify their own stagnant lives. Pathetic, isn't it? But you had something they didn't. Resilience. They thought breaking you would be easy. A few harsh words, a couple of backstabs, and you'd crumble. But they didn't understand that some of us are built from the rubble of our own disasters. You took every hit, every sneer, and turned it into fuel. You let the fire burn, but not destroy. You let the pain sink in, but not drown you. You became the calm in the storm, the eye of the hurricane. And that terrifies them. They called you a fool, but a fool is just a king who hasn't taken his throne yet. You see, when you're the underdog, when everyone writes you off, that's when you're most dangerous, because no one sees you coming. They're too busy counting you out to realize you're still in the ring. And when you finally strike, it's not a punch, it's a knockout. You don't just win, you obliterate. You take everything they thought they knew and turn it into ash. That's power. Real power. The kind that doesn't need to be loud or flashy. The kind that speaks in silence and moves in shadows. You didn't need revenge. No. Revenge is too easy. It's for the weak. You wanted something deeper, darker. You wanted them to question themselves. You wanted them to lie awake at night, replaying every conversation, every smirk, every sneer, wondering where it all went wrong. You wanted them to feel what you felt, lost, confused, empty. And the beauty of it all? You didn't have to lift a finger. You just had to survive. And by surviving, you won. You shattered their minds without even trying. Now every time they see you, every time they hear your name, they're haunted. You became their ghost, their nightmare, their regret. But let me tell you something, kid. Regret is a prison with no bars. It eats at you from the inside, gnawing away until there's nothing left but bones and shadows. They'll carry that regret like a chain, dragging it behind them, clinking and clanking with every step. And you'll walk free. You'll walk tall. Because while they were busy plotting your downfall, you were building your empire. While they were laughing at your pain, you were finding strength in your scars. And now, those scars are your armor, and their regret is their punishment. They wanted to see you break, but all they did was sharpen your edges. They thought they'd bury you, but you were a seed all along. They expected a grave, but instead, they got a garden. A dark, twisted, beautiful garden where nothing they said or did could ever grow again. You became untouchable, not because you were above them, but because you were beyond them. They no longer had the power to hurt you, and that's the ultimate victory. You played the fool, but you were never foolish. You gave them chances, offered them the benefit of the doubt, showed them the light when they only knew shadows. And when they threw it all away, when they proved they weren't worth it, you didn't fight back. You just watched. And sometimes, watching is all it takes. They'll destroy themselves eventually. All you had to do was step back and let them. Life isn't about winning every battle. It's about choosing which wars are worth your blood. You chose to walk away, to let the storm rage while you built a shelter within yourself. And now they're drowning, and you're dry. Now they're lost, and you found your way. Now they're haunted, and you're at peace. So, kid, remember this. You might have played the fool, but you wrote the final act. You turned their stage into your story, their script into your monologue. And the best part, they'll never understand how you did it. They'll spend the rest of their lives trying to decipher the code, to figure out how the person they thought was weak ended up being the strongest of them all. And that, my friend, is the greatest joke of all. But the show isn't over yet, is it? See, they thought that was the end, that you walking away was some kind of surrender. But what they don't get is that silence is deadlier than any scream. When you stop caring, stop reacting, stop playing their games, that's when they panic, because they need you to need them. They need your attention, your pain, your anger. Without it, they're nothing. That's the part they'll never admit. They pretended to hate you, to mock you. But deep down, they needed you. You were the fuel to their miserable little fires. And when you took that away, when you turned your back, the flames died out. And now, they're left in the dark, clutching at shadows, whispering your name like a curse they can't break. It's funny, really, how they called you weak when they were the ones terrified of being alone. They surrounded themselves with sycophants and echo chambers, desperate for validation, for someone to tell them they mattered. But you walked alone through the darkest nights and came out colder, sharper, untouched. That scares them more than any threat you could have made, because when you've survived the worst, what's left to fear? You've stared into the abyss, kid, and it blinked first. They can't stand that. Can't stand knowing you don't need them, that you never did. But let's get real for a second. This world doesn't care about you, never did. It chews people up, spits them out, grinds dreams into dust without a second thought. And if you're waiting for some kind of justice, some cosmic balance to make things right, you'll be waiting till you're 6 feet under. Justice isn't real. It's a story they tell to keep you in line, to make you think suffering has a purpose. But the truth? Suffering just is. It's the price of breathing, the tax on existence. But here's the twist. They can't tax your will. They can't touch that fire inside that refuses to go out. That's yours and yours alone. They can strip away everything else, leave you bleeding and bare. But as long as you've got that spark, you're dangerous. That's what they can't understand. They see scars and call them weaknesses. But scars are proof you survived. They see silence and call it defeat. But silence is strategy. Let them think you're done. Let them believe they've won. Because when you rise, and you will rise, it won't be with words. It'll be with actions, with cold eyes and a steady pulse, with a smile that says, I know something you don't. And when that day comes, they'll break. Not because of anything you said or did, but because the very sight of you, unbroken, unbothered, will remind them of everything they'll never be. But don't get cocky, kid. This isn't some fairy tale where the hero gets a happy ending. There are no heroes, just people doing what they must to survive. If you're looking for meaning, stop. There isn't any. The universe doesn't owe you a damn thing. It'll watch you bleed and turn the other way without a second thought. That's the reality they don't want you to see. That nothing and no one is coming to save you. But that's okay. Because once you accept that, once you embrace the void, you become unstoppable. No expectations mean no disappointments. No attachments mean no chains. You're free, kid. Free in a way they'll never be. And that's the real punchline. Look at them, scrambling to piece together their little lives, clinging to their lies and labels like lifeboats in a storm. They call you mad, but madness is just freedom by another name. They're the ones trapped, not you. Trapped by their own fears, their own delusions. They need their rules and their reasons, their morals and masks. But you've seen the truth beneath it all, the chaos, the void, the beautiful, endless darkness that swallows all things. You don't fear it. You thrive in it. While they're praying for the light, you've made a home in the shadows. And here's the secret, kid. The shadows aren't empty. They're full of power, of potential, of everything they're too scared to face. You found strength in solitude, wisdom in wounds, clarity in chaos. While they were busy hiding behind smiles and small talk, you were learning, evolving, becoming something they can't even begin to understand. And that terrifies them, because they know that when push comes to shove, when all the masks are off, you'll do what they can't. You'll make the hard choices, walk the lonely roads, leave behind everything and everyone if that's what it takes. They'll call you heartless, ruthless, a monster even. But monsters are just people who refuse to be victims. You stopped being a victim the day you stopped caring what they thought. The day you looked in the mirror and saw not the scars, not the pain, but the survivor beneath it all. The day you realized you didn't need their acceptance, their apologies, their empty words. That was the day you won. Not because they admitted defeat, but because you stopped needing them to. They think the game is about winning or losing, but it's not. It's about endurance, about outlasting. And you, kid, you've proven you can take the hits. You've bled and burned and broken and still got back up. That's something they'll never understand. They think strength is about dominance, about having power over others. But real strength, it's about standing alone, bleeding and battered and saying, "Is that all you've got?" It's about refusing to stay down, refusing to be defined by what they did to you. It's about making pain your armor, silence your sword, and survival your revenge. So let them talk. Let them sneer and whisper and spread their little lies. Let them think they've won, because you and I both know the truth. They're scared, terrified that one day you'll stop holding back, that one day you'll show them what real power looks like. The kind that doesn't need an audience, that doesn't seek approval, the kind that moves in silence and strikes without warning. And when that day comes, when they're all alone with nothing but their regrets and shattered minds, they'll finally understand. They didn't beat you. They unleashed you. They didn't bury you. They planted you. And what grows from that darkness, from that pain, will be something they can't even comprehend. So go on, kid. Keep walking. Keep smiling that quiet, dangerous smile. Let them think you're a fool. Because the best part about being underestimated, they never see you coming. And that's the real joke. The one they'll never get, no matter how many times they replay it in their heads. You played the fool, sure, but the joke's always been on them. But it gets better, kid. See, they'll tell you that you're bitter, that holding onto the pain makes you weak, that forgiveness is the path to freedom. What a laugh. Forgiveness isn't freedom. It's surrender. It's handing them a clean slate they never earned, letting them walk away without facing the mess they made. They don't want forgiveness for your sake. They want it for theirs. to ease their guilt, to rewrite the past, to pretend the knife they stuck in your back wasn't twisted on purpose. But you know better. You've seen the truth behind their crocodile tears, their empty apologies. You've seen how quickly they move on, how easily they sleep at night, while you lie awake, replaying every lie, every betrayal. They want you to forgive and forget, but forgetting is for the weak. The pain isn't a prison. It's a reminder, a scar that keeps you sharp, keeps you from making the same mistake twice. The people who tell you to let go are the ones who've never held on to anything that mattered. They don't get it. Don't get that some wounds aren't meant to heal, that some memories aren't meant to fade, because those memories, those scars, they're the armor that keeps you standing when the world tries to knock you down again. You don't let go of the blade just because it cuts deep. You hold tighter until your hands bleed, until you've learned every inch of its edge, until you can turn it back on those who tried to gut you with it. But they'll say that makes you no better than them, won't they? That revenge is a poison, that hating them only chains you to the past. But hatred isn't a chain, it's fuel. It's what gets you out of bed when the pain makes you want to lay down and never get up again. It's what keeps your eyes open when the nightmares come, what keeps your fists clenched when all you want to do is break. They don't understand that kind of fire. The kind that burns but never consumes, that keeps you warm in a world that's nothing but ice. They don't understand that sometimes the only way forward is to turn around and burn everything they built to the ground. But you don't owe them understanding, kid. You don't owe them forgiveness or mercy or a second chance. Mercy is for the innocent, for those who've made mistakes, not choices. And they chose. They chose to hurt, to betray, to lie and smile and pretend like they weren't ripping you apart piece by piece. They'll act surprised when you turn cold, call you heartless, call you cruel. But that's because they're afraid. Afraid that they can't control you anymore, that the power they had is gone for good. And that's the truth they'll never admit, that they're powerless without your pain. You ever notice how the same people who threw you to the wolves are the ones who can't stand seeing you survive? How they talk about your darkness like it's a flaw, but it's the very thing that kept you alive. They'll say you've changed, that you're not the same person you used to be. Of course you're not. You can't walk through hell and come out the same. The fire either forges you or it finishes you, and you're still here. That's what burns them the most, that you walked through their flames and didn't turn to ash. They wanted a victim, but you became something else. Something they can't understand, something they can't control. They'll call you ruthless, tell you that holding grudges only drags you down. But grudges aren't chains, they're weights. And weights build strength. Every ounce of anger, every drop of bitterness, it's just another rep, another set, another step towards becoming unbreakable. You don't drop the weight just because it's heavy. You carry it until you can crush the ones who put it there. Because in this world, kid, kindness gets you killed and forgiveness gets you buried. You want peace? Make them afraid to go to war with you again. And don't let them fool you into thinking solitude is a curse. Being alone isn't the same as being lonely. Loneliness is when you're surrounded by people who don't see you, don't hear you, don't care if you live or die. Solitude? Solitude is power. It's silence without apologies, peace without compromises. It's choosing to be your own hero instead of begging for a savior. They say you're isolated, but the truth is you outgrew them. They're shallow words. They're empty smiles. They're hollow promises. They can't reach you now, and that terrifies them. Because without you to lean on, without you to blame, they're forced to face themselves. And what they see in the mirror isn't pretty. Let them keep talking. Keep whispering your name with venom on their tongues. Every lie they spread, every rumor they start, it's just proof that you're still in their heads, rent-free. They want you to break, want you to snap, to come crawling back so they can tear you apart again. But that's the real power, isn't it? Knowing they'll never get that chance. Knowing that no matter how much they hate, no matter how many knives they throw, you're untouchable. You're beyond them. But they'll say you're bitter, that you need to heal, to let it go. But letting go is for people who can afford to forget. And you remember everything. Every word, every betrayal, every knife in the back. You remember not because you're weak, but because you refuse to let them rewrite the story. They'll paint you as the villain if they can't make you the victim. But villains survive. Villains write their own endings. And if you've got to be the bad guy in their story to be the hero in yours, so be it. They say revenge doesn't change the past, and maybe that's true, but it sure as hell changes the future. It puts the fear back where it belongs, in their eyes, not yours. It makes them think twice before they try to cross you again. It turns the tables, flips the script, makes them taste the blood they spilled. And maybe that doesn't fix anything. Maybe it doesn't fill the emptiness or stop the nightmares, but it's something. And in a world that's taken everything from you, something is enough. So don't let them guilt you into softness. Don't let them convince you that your darkness is something to be ashamed of. You earned that darkness. You bled for it, fought for it, survived for it. It's yours. Wear it like armor, sharpen it like a blade, and when the time comes, let it cut deep. Because in the end, the only justice in this world is the kind you take for yourself. They'll call it ruthless, call it cruel, call it madness. But madness is just freedom they don't understand. So keep walking, kid. Keep your head up, your eyes cold, your scars bare. Let them talk, let them plot, let them pray for your downfall, because every step you take, every breath you draw, is proof that they failed. You're still here, you're still standing, and that's the punchline they'll never get. They thought they could bury you, but all they did was plant a seed. And what grows from that darkness, from that pain, will be something they'll never be ready for. You played the fool, sure, but now the game is yours, and they're the ones left playing in the dark. But the real joke, the one they'll never understand, is that the darkness didn't just change you, it revealed you. It stripped away all the lies, the masks, the illusions, and left you raw, real, untouchable. You weren't broken, kid, you were refined. The fire didn't burn you alive, it burned away everything false. The person you were before, that was the disguise. Soft, trusting, eager to see the good in people who never had any. But now you see the world for what it is. Ruthless, selfish, cold. And instead of flinching, instead of begging for warmth, you adapted. You built your own fire out of the pain. And now, it's them who can't stand the heat. They'll never admit it, of course. They'll keep playing their little games, keep spinning their lies, keep pretending like they're not terrified every time you walk into the room. Because that's the thing about power. It's not about who's got the loudest voice or the biggest crowd. Real power is in silence, in the way you don't flinch when they scream, don't blink when they threaten, don't bend when they try to break you. Real power is looking them dead in the eyes, smiling that cold, quiet smile, and watching them fall apart without lifting a finger. And they hate that. Hate knowing they can't touch you, can't shake you, can't make you doubt yourself the way they doubt themselves every single day. That's why they keep pushing, keep testing, keep trying to drag you back down into the mud with them. Misery loves company, and they're miserable, kid. Empty, bitter, hollow inside. They need you to bleed so they don't feel so alone in their own emptiness. But you stopped bleeding a long time ago, didn't you? You sewed yourself up with barbed wire and grit, cauterized the wounds with rage and silence, and left them staring at their bloody hands, wondering why they still feel so cold. See, they thought the pain would ruin you, that you'd drown in it, let it drag you down into the dark and keep you there. But pain is just a tool. It shapes, it molds, it carves away everything soft until there's nothing left but iron and edge. You didn't drown in it. You learned to breathe underwater. While they were flailing, gasping, reaching for anything to keep from sinking, you embraced the depths. You stopped fighting the current and became the storm. And now, they're the ones struggling to keep up, to understand how the person they tried to destroy turned into something they can't even recognize. That's the irony, isn't it? They spent so much time building themselves up, surrounding themselves with sycophants and yes-men, feeding off each other's lies until they forgot what the truth even taste like. But you were alone. You had nothing and no one but the voice in your head telling you to keep going, keep fighting, keep breathing. They had their armies, their gossip, their masks, and it still wasn't enough. Because you can't fake strength. You can't pretend to have fire when all you've got is smoke and mirrors. They'll call you cruel for not forgiving them, for not pretending the knife in your back didn't leave scars. But forgiveness without change is just permission to get hurt again. It's handing them a second blade and baring your chest. They don't want to make things right. They just want to stop feeling guilty. They don't want you to heal. They want you to forget. But forgetting is a luxury you can't afford. Every scar is a lesson. Every nightmare a reminder that monsters wear smiles, and friends can turn to enemies without warning. So let them talk. Let them paint you as the villain, the monster, the heartless one. Because the truth, villains are just victims who got tired of being betrayed. Monsters are just survivors who refuse to die quietly. And heartless? Heartless is what they call you when you stop giving yours away for free. They'll never admit it, but they need someone to hate more than they need someone to love. They need to blame you because blaming themselves would mean facing the truth. That they're not heroes, not victims, not innocent. Just cowards hiding behind excuses and lies. But you're done playing their game. You've seen behind the curtain, pulled back the masks, and what you saw wasn't worth saving. So let them hate. Let them choke on their own bitterness while you keep walking. Keep building. Keep rising. Because every step forward is a reminder that they failed. Every breath you take is proof that the knives they threw weren't sharp enough. And every time they hear your name, every time they see you thriving, it'll eat at them a little more. They wanted to break you, but all they did was free you. Free from the need for approval. From the chains of their opinions, from the lies they told to keep you small. They don't get that yet. They think you're still playing the same game, still trying to prove something, still desperate to be understood. But you stopped caring what they thought the day you realized their opinions were just reflections of their own insecurities. They call you heartless because they can't stand how at peace you are with being alone. They call you cruel because they can't fathom strength that doesn't need an audience. But it's not about revenge, is it? No. Revenge is too easy, too shallow. This isn't about making them pay. It's about making sure they never get the chance to touch you again. It's about building walls so high, so dark, so unbreakable that even their shadows can't reach you. It's about becoming untouchable, unstoppable, something more than they could ever understand. Not because you hate them, but because you love yourself too much to ever go back. Because survival is the best revenge. And thriving is the final nail in the coffin of their lies. So keep your head high, your eyes forward, and let the past rot where it belongs. Let them choke on their own regret, drown in the emptiness they tried to drag you into. Let them tell their stories, spread their lies. Pretend like they're not haunted by the memory of what they did. Because at the end of the day, the truth doesn't need defending. It just needs to be lived. And you're still here, still breathing, still fighting, still rising. That's the real punchline, kid. Not that they failed to break you, but that in trying, they broke themselves. They wanted a villain, and you gave them one. But not the one they expected. Not a monster that hides in shadows, but a storm that walks in daylight. Not someone who wants revenge, but someone who doesn't need it. Someone who's moved beyond hate, beyond pain, beyond them. You played the fool, sure. But now you're the one writing the story. And they're just background noise, echoes in a past you left behind. That's the real joke, the one they'll never get, no matter how many times they replay it in their heads. You didn't just survive them, you thrived because of them. And that's a story they'll never have the courage to tell.